Hi, back again. Right, today I have been sent a Metalsub XL 7.2. This is quite an old light now, so probably not so many around anymore, but people might still have one, so I thought I'd just take a moment and go through this assemble and disassemble. This one is actually working okay, but the users obviously bought it and just wants it checked out. So just to be clear, I have actually taken this one apart already and done a bit of a clean up on it inside, and then realized actually I should have been doing a video of this, so I'm going to start all over again. So the 7.2 is a 7-volt battery. There is an XL 13.2, which is a 13-volt battery. Slightly longer light, but just so you realise that the 13.2 and the 7.2 can't be swapped about, as in one's 13 volts and one's 7 volts. So this one, the light is say around about 18 centimeters long. So I was just going to quickly go through this. It's not too many tools required. So the first thing to note is this glass bezel part just unscrews, and the module will fall out. So the module is, in this case, it's a 20 watt 1500 lumen LED module, but there are halogen modules, etc. And of it in here, inside the module, is the LED driver circuit board. I'm not going to strip that down today, as I say, this is all working, etc. But the 13.2 module will be slightly longer, but obviously running at 13 volts rather than 7 volts, so they can't be interchanged essentially. This O-ring here, we'll grease that in a moment and we'll put that back together when we put that back together. So the next part, we can undo this body here. So the easiest way is to hold the handle and just twist the whole body round. And that will just disassemble the light, and we'll expose the battery. And there's two more O-rings down here which we'll put some grease on before reassembly. So once we expose the battery, this is just a battery pack. It's got two terminals here which we can check the voltage on, and inside there is a number of battery cells inside there, all soldered together. The battery pack at this moment is still available, but it may not always be available in the future. But you can undo the 3 screws here and expose the battery cells and just replace the battery cells in there. But this one looks all quite good. We will do a drain test and see how long it lasts, etc. later on, but at the moment it appears the light seems to be working, so I'm not so bothered about that. Another thing to note here is sometimes, depending on the age of the light that you've got, you might find an O-ring in just sitting there basically. It's not really acting as an O-ring. It basically acts to keep this or lock this and make this a little bit stiffer in place. As you can see, this just locks on a bayonet, so it just attaches and rotates quarter of a turn. If the light gets banged about, etc., I know what divers are like, they tend to use it as a hammer or they drop it, etc., then this may just rotate slightly and then the two contacts won't meet correctly. So sometimes, not so much now, but I have had people return a light and it's just because the battery has literally just come loose inside there. So they started putting an O-ring there, This particular light, which is an older version of the light, doesn't have an O-ring. On the back of the handle down here, there is actually a serial number. So if it's been the light's been supplied through the UK agent, then they'll record this serial number so they know who and when it was sold. But not all lights have always come through the UK agent. So, and some of them don't have that serial number on them. Very seldom, but normally they do have that serial number on them. Another problem that you could have with this light is this switch ring here, which just rotates round. This could become stiff and may just need cleaning out, which I've already done on this particular light here. But the other thing is, in this bezel is a magnet which rotates the switch inside, which I'll show you shortly. That magnet, if it is left uncleaned, it can start to corrode, will expand, and will start making this very stiff to turn and rotate. So this can be removed. The first thing to remove is this lug here with the 4 holes in it, and I tend to use some circlip pliers, put them into 2 holes and just turn it around. And so I have opened this one up yesterday, so it is opening very simply for me, but it may not be on your light depending on how mucky it is inside. Now just be careful when you open this. There is a ball bearing in here. It shouldn't ping out, but just to make sure that you don't drop it on the floor, because you'll have to order another one. So this will come out, and there's a ball bearing, I think you can see it just inside there, which may just pop out or may not. It doesn't really make any difference at this point. And this is, that ball bearing is stopping this from rotating past the point of return to actually make it come off. So you can see the ball bearing in there now, and that when this is put in there, that ball bearing comes out and locks this into place. Just going to put that back together and take that off again, just to do another small recap. So normally when that's in, that will only rotate so far around, hits the ball bearing, but on this case we can actually rotate it further around and just slide it off, and we can then disassemble this. This is the magnet that I was talking about here. Obviously it's sealed inside there, so there shouldn't get any water in there, but if you don't wash the torch out for a very long period of time, that magnet can swell, and you'll normally find a crack around the bezel here, and it just starts to expand and make it stiff to use. But we'll clean this one up. There's a spring there, a locking latch, a little bit of muck in here which I didn't clean up last time, but generally that's okay. If not, it just needs a replacement bezel. But the trouble is, I'm not 100% sure how long Metalsub will continue to manufacture these parts for us here. And I'm just going to pop that ball bearing out before I lose it. And so we haven't got too many parts. On this piece here, there is some O-rings here, which this will need cleaning up, which I've done in this particular case, and will need re-greasing on there to ensure that that's watertight when it goes back in. So generally you only need to undo this bit if you've got a problem with the switch mechanism, and I'll show you where that magnet connects to in a moment. So in here we've now got 3 crosshead screws. They should come out relatively easily. They shouldn't really be in there hugely tight, but again, I did open this one up yesterday, so these should come apart quite easily. There shouldn't be any moisture or damage in here, but if there is, you might need to rub over these contacts with a bit of wire wool or something if they've got damaged. So we just basically got 3 screws holding this in place, a couple of terminals there, and another terminal which goes up to the light fitting, the LED module or the module. This part here, this is just a thermometer or temperature gauge or reading, so that's just to check that it doesn't get too hot. And then we expose the circuit board. The circuit board's fixed in with the two crosshead screws. Depending on the age, they might be a different type of screw, but you'll get that if you open one up. And these circuit boards, again, depending on the age of your light, they have changed over the time. So this one here is actually an old type of circuit board, and you can tell that because it's got this switch in it, this white switching thing, and that's basically what the magnet does. So if we put that back together, when the magnet locks onto there, then it will rotate the camera, it will rotate the switch round. Later models of the circuit board they've changed the circuit board, and they've got a magnet sensor on the circuit board. It's another board that comes down here, so then it won't have the white bit in. So as the magnet comes past the circuit board sensor, then it'll switch the lights on and light off, or depending on which mode you're changing. But this is an older model, and it's physically got a magnet just gets dragged around, and as it goes round, it moves these switches on here to turn the light on and off. But depending on the age of your light, you might have a slightly different circuit board. Obviously, if we needed to replace the circuit board and Metalsub still had them, then it would be the newer model. It wouldn't be this particular model here. You can dismantle it further, but I'm not really going to go that far, and take these two charging points out. Just unscrew these two bits here onto there, and they will come out. I'm not going to do it on this occasion because the light is working, and the more I take apart, the more I disassemble, the more risk we have of obviously having to make sure everything's greased and the O-rings are all good and that. And the LED cover, the LEDs on the circuit board, which you can see here, and the LED light will shine through this cover here. So again, because everything is working and everything it's all watertight, I don't particularly want to take that out, but I could do, but I'm not going to on this occasion. So what you would probably want to check on here is that these terminal areas around here, which these terminals will sit on, they will need to be clean. So maybe a little bit of wire wool just to scratch off there. I'll do that in a moment. And the same for the middle terminal here. So if there's anything on this particular part of the circuit board which is preventing that from working, that might be worth just a little bit of a rub to get that off. So I'll just go and get some wire wool. Forgot to get that bit, preparation and all that. So I'm just going to clean up just the gold contact bit. Just make sure you don't leave any wire wool pieces inside the circuit board and damage anything else. So this light is actually working, and it's very clean already. And I'll just do the same with these ends here, but they're all shiny and clean anyway. But if they weren't, it would be worthwhile just a quick, just try and make sure you don't get any bits of wire wool inside the circuit, inside the light. Just gonna wipe everything down inside, make sure I haven't got anything dirty. Just check on the magnet, but this light looks very clean, so the person who's purchased this has done well. Right, so now to reassemble this. I'm just going to pop the magnet in. This will need to be, as I say, you may not have this if you've got a newer model, but if you've got this particular model, the latches here want to be facing you, so the flat side wants to be inside the light, and you can fix that in by just locking it in with the thing, just to keep it in place whilst you put the light in. So the LED will want to go where the LED cover is kept, so it should be obvious which way round to put it, and that should very easily pop itself back into place, and the two screw holes should line up. So I just pop the two screws in. We're looking at these holes here. There are another 3 screw holes over around the edges of the circuit board, and that's for the black piece to go back on in a minute. So we're just going to gently pop those in. These want to be reasonably tight, but not too tight. These are tightening up onto these terminals here, so you don't really want to over tighten those, because it will make it very difficult for the next person if they ever try to open that. And then you should be able to feel or hear or see the magnet switch turning round. I'm just going to take that off so it's out of the way for a moment. Now I've got to put these bits back on, so I'm going to put the terminals back in. Might be a little bit difficult to see because I've got to hold it flat. And when you put this back on, this little groove here is for that temperature sensor. And that went back in quite easily. So that they're falling into the hole, that's into there. So that's all gone back in, and all 3 holes line up. So I can now put this back into place. Quite straightforward and simple to do. I'm not sure how long Metalsub will still be supplying parts for these. I suppose once they run out of circuit boards, they may not produce any more. So hopefully if you have got a problem, it's not going to be with the circuit board. Again, I'm not going to over tighten these, no real need to do that. So that's all back together. We can now reassemble this section here, and we'll put the locking mechanism back in. So just going to clean a little bit of the muck that might be under this latch. These parts normally come with this. If you order a new one of those, you normally get a new part with it, but can't guarantee what will be supplied always. I'm just going to give this a good clean inside here. And this doesn't look damaged in any way, but if it was, then a replacement would need to be ordered. But again, if they're available. So just going to get all the muck out of there. And that can now go back together. So the spring goes in. That goes in with, obviously the spring goes in that hole, so it has to go that way around. And got a little latch sitting on the top. That can go back together and lock it round into place. Then we can pop the ball bearing in, and it just goes into a hole in there. Push that into place. This is where you want to put some grease, which I've already done on this one, so I won't do it again. There's some O-rings here, so I put some grease onto here, grease onto this part here, and then pop that back into place. Don't over grease them, just put a light layer of grease on. Doesn't don't need slabs of it on there. As long as the O-ring is nice and shiny, you know you've got enough grease on there. I'm not going to over tighten that. It doesn't need to be over tight because it will just be very difficult to get off. As you can see, this is all very clean and simple. Right, I'm going to grease these O-rings here because these haven't been greased. I'm not going to slab too much on, and just make sure it goes all the way around so the O-rings just come up shiny. Don't need masses of it. So that's the two there. Put the battery in and just rotate it into place. I should actually be able to see the light come on in this case and go off. So you can actually test it at this point if you wanted to without the LED module on. So I can see the circuit board is working, the switch is going on and off. And this one will just go back into place. Tighten up reasonably, but it should fit. So this is the part that moves down. Although that's probably moved down a bit over the time. Need to also do this O-ring here. So we'll just do that. Again, we don't need to lather it up too much. Just got a little bit more on there. Just ensure it's gone all the way around. And we can pop the LED module back into place. Again, we could test it at this point, just hold it in place and rotate the switch and it should light up. Last thing that we need to do is just check this bit. It's worthwhile giving this a good wipe. If there's any mucky parts on the lens, you don't particularly want that, so it will restrict the light from working as well as it might. So just going to give that a good clean up. Make sure I put all my mucky finger marks have come off it. Slightly scratched up, but nothing too much, and then that will just screw back on into place. And that is all that done. So I'll test the light, I'll fully charge it back up, make sure the switch is doing what it's meant to be doing, going into high mode, low mode, etc. And then leave it in, and obviously SOS, and just leave it in water for 24 hours, make sure it's still working again. And the next thing I'll need to test is just to see how long the battery lasts. If the battery is lasting reasonably well, then we'll just leave it as it is. If it's not, then the customer may need to purchase a new battery pack, which is easy to change over. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you found that useful.